Commander Jake Morrison stepped into the Grand Council chamber and tried not to stare. The room stretched higher than any building he had seen on Earth. Hundreds of alien species filled the curved seats that rose in circles around the central floor. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like they were made of living crystal. The air smelled strange, a mix of scents he could not name. Ambassador Lisa Chen walked beside him. She had been dealing with aliens for 3 months now, ever since humanity made first contact. Jake was new to this world. He had commanded military vessels for 15 years, but nothing prepared him for this moment. "Stay calm," Lisa whispered. "They are watching everything we do." A tall alien approached them. His skin was deep blue, and his eyes were completely black. He wore robes that seemed to shift colors as he moved. "Ambassador Chen, Commander Morrison, welcome. I am Council Director Velthar. Please, follow me." They walked to seats marked for human observers. Jake noticed that every species sat in a specific section. The seating seemed organized by some system he did not understand yet. Velthar moved to the center of the chamber. His voice echoed without any microphone. "We gather today to educate our newest potential members about the Galactic Council's threat classification system. This system has kept peace in our galaxy for over 2,000 years. A massive screen appeared in the air above them. It showed a simple chart with numbers from 1 to 10. Every species in the galaxy receives a threat level classification. Velthar continued. "This is not an insult. It is a practical measure. We must understand the capabilities and potential dangers of each species we encounter." Jake leaned forward. This was why they were really here. Humanity was being evaluated. Level 1 species are minimal threats, Velthar explained. They possess basic tool use and simple social structures. Level 5 species have achieved space travel and energy weapons. Level 10 species are what we call Apex. The screen changed to show different aliens. Each one looked more dangerous than the last. "The Kryn warrior clans are level 10, Velthar said. A massive creature appeared on the screen, covered in armored plates with 4 powerful arms. They can tear through steel with their bare hands. Their warriors train from birth and never surrender." Another image appeared. This one showed a being that looked almost human but with skin that glowed softly. The Mindari are also Apex level. They possess telepathic abilities strong enough to disable entire ship crews from a distance. They can read thoughts and plant suggestions in minds. Jake glanced at Lisa. She kept her face neutral, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. "We have 43 level 10 species in the Council," Velthar continued. "Each brings unique strengths. The system accounts for military capability, technological advancement, biological advantages, and potential danger to galactic stability." A small alien in the front row raised a tentacle. "Director, have you determined humanity's classification yet?" The chamber fell silent. Jake felt hundreds of eyes turn toward him and Lisa. Velthar paused. For just a moment, something like concern crossed his face. "Humanity has been given a preliminary classification of level 7. However, this is temporary. We are conducting further evaluation." "Level 7? Jake could not help himself. "What does that mean exactly?" Several council members shifted in their seats. Velthar's expression became carefully neutral. "Level 7 indicates significant capability with room for growth. You possess nuclear weapons, space travel, and complex social structures. You have survived multiple extinction-level events on your world. Your technology advances rapidly." "But?" Lisa asked quietly. "But our evaluation is not complete," Velthar said. "There are factors we are still analyzing." Jake did not miss the way several council members exchanged glances. Something was being left unsaid. The briefing continued for another hour. Velthar showed examples of different species and their classifications. Jake took notes. But his mind kept returning to that moment of silence. The council knew something about humanity that they were not sharing. When the session ended, Lisa and Jake walked back through the long corridors of the council station. Other diplomats and aliens passed them, some nodding in greeting, others simply staring. "They are afraid of us," Jake said once they were alone. Not afraid, Lisa corrected. Uncertain. That might be worse. They reached their quarters, a small suite designed for human comfort. Lisa poured herself water from the recycler and sat down heavily. I am going to file my report, Jake said. But I think I will do some research first. Research into what? Into what they are not telling us. Level 7 does not explain why Velthar looked nervous. Lisa nodded slowly. Be careful, Jake. I know. But we also need to know what we are walking into. That evening, Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about the classification system. It made sense in a cold, logical way. If you were trying to maintain peace between hundreds of species, you needed to know who could destroy whom. But something about it felt wrong. He pulled up the public records the council had shared. Species after species, all neatly categorized. The Kryn were strong. The Mindari were telepathic. The Zexon had advanced weapons technology. Each apex species excelled in one clear area. So where did humans fit? Jake started making a list. Humans were not the strongest. Dozens of species could overpower them physically. They were not the smartest. Several species had larger brains and faster processing. They were not the most advanced. Their technology was centuries behind the council standard. Yet the council had classified them at level 7 and seemed nervous about it. His computer chimed. A message from Lisa. Cannot sleep either. Meeting you in the observation deck. Jake found her standing by the large window that looked out into space. The council station orbited a beautiful blue planet. Stars filled the darkness beyond. I heard something after you left, Lisa said quietly. I was walking past a conference room. The door was partly open, and 3 council members were arguing. I only caught pieces of the conversation. But one of them said that humans might require a classification above the standard system. Jake stared at her. Above level 10? Above Apex? That is what it sounded like. Another one said that the classification system was not designed for species like us. Like us how? Lisa turned to face him. In the starlight, she looked tired. I do not know, Jake. But they are trying to figure out how to classify something they have never encountered before. And that makes them very nervous. They stood in silence for a long moment. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, humanity was being judged by standards it did not fully understand. Tomorrow, Jake said, I am going to start asking questions. Real questions. They might not answer. Then I will find someone who will. Lisa smiled slightly. Just remember, we are not just representing ourselves. We are representing all of humanity. I know, Jake said. That is exactly why I need to know the truth. He looked back at the stars. Humanity had always been good at adapting, at surviving, at pushing forward, even when the odds seemed impossible. Whatever the council was hiding, whatever made them nervous about classifying humans, Jake was going to find out. Because if there was something beyond Apex, humanity needed to know what it was. And more importantly, they needed to know if they were it. Dr. Kevin Park rubbed his eyes and looked at the data again. He had been staring at the council's classification records for 6 hours straight. Coffee helped, but not enough. You need to sleep, Officer Amy Rodriguez said from across the small research room. She was reviewing military assessments, her own screen filled with tactical reports. I need to understand this first, Kevin replied. He was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. The council had given humanity access to basic information about known species. Kevin had been analyzing every detail. Find anything useful? Maybe. Look at this. Kevin transferred data to the main screen. A chart appeared showing all the level 10 species. Every apex predator has one dominant trait. The Kryn have extreme physical strength. The Mindari have telepathy. The Vexer have natural armor that can withstand plasma fire. Amy stood and walked closer. So each one is the best at something specific. Exactly. The council system is simple. Find what makes a species dangerous and rate them accordingly. But here is the problem. Kevin pulled up humanity's preliminary report. We do not have a dominant trait. We have lots of traits. Right. We are decent at many things, but not exceptional at any one thing. We are not the strongest, fastest, or smartest. Our technology is average compared to the galaxy. So why does the Council seem worried? Amy sat on the edge of the desk. She had served in military intelligence for 8 years before joining the diplomatic mission. Reading between the lines was her specialty. They are not worried about what we are. They are worried about what we might become. Or what we represent, Kevin added, something that does not fit their model. A knock on the door interrupted them. Jake entered carrying a data pad. He looked even more tired than Kevin felt. I have been talking to lower-level council staff, Jake said. Most of them will not say much. But I found one who was willing to share something interesting. Who? Lisa asked, stepping into the room behind him. The whole team was working late. A filing clerk named Bix. He is from a level 3 species, very friendly. He mentioned that the Council has observer reports from Earth. Detailed ones. Kevin sat up straighter. How detailed? They have been watching us for 50 years, ever since we developed nuclear weapons. Bix said the reports are classified, but he saw one by accident. It was marked as an anomaly. Amy pulled up a new screen. Can we access these reports? Not legally, Lisa said firmly. We are guests here. We cannot steal classified information. What if it was given to us? A new voice said. Everyone turned. Counselor Thex stood in the doorway. He was one of the scientists on the council. A being that looked like a tall insect with too many joints, but his translator made his voice sound gentle and kind. Counselor, Lisa said carefully. We did not expect you. I know. I should not be here. Thex entered and closed the door. But I believe you deserve to know what the Council is debating about your species. Jake gestured to a chair, but Thex remained standing. We would appreciate any insight. The observers who watched Earth filed reports that confused many Council members, Thex began. They documented your wars, your weapons, your capacity for violence. But they also documented something else. Something we have never seen before in a single species. What? Kevin asked. Adaptability, combined with pack bonding, at a scale we cannot explain. You fight terrible wars, then rebuild together. You survive in environments that should kill you. You create weapons that could destroy your world, then choose not to use them. You are unpredictable. Amy crossed her arms. Unpredictable is not the same as dangerous. To the Council, it is exactly the same, Thex replied. Our system works because we can predict behavior. The Kryn will always choose combat. The Mindari will always seek mental dominance. Every species follows patterns, but humans do not. Kevin pulled up Earth's history on the screen. Show him the wars, he said to himself. He displayed World War II. We fought this war with everything we had. Millions died. Then, look. He changed the image to show the same nations working together in space programs. 50 years later, former enemies were building space stations together. Exactly, Thex said quietly. One of the observer reports stated that humans are the only species that learns from mistakes at a cultural level. You adapt not just individually, but as an entire civilization. Is that why they are afraid? Lisa asked. They are not afraid of what you are now, Thex explained. They are afraid of what you might become. The Kryn have been the same for 10,000 years. They do not change. The Mindari evolve slowly, over millions of years. But humans? You went from wooden ships to starships in 400 years. You survived ice ages, plagues, and near-extinction events. And each time, you emerged stronger. Jake leaned against the wall. So, we are classified as level 7 not because of what we can do, but because they cannot predict our ceiling. Precisely. And there is more. Thex pulled out a small device. I should not show you this, but I believe transparency serves peace better than secrets. He activated the device. A hologram appeared, showing text from an observer report. Amy read aloud. Species exhibits unusual traits. Physical endurance exceeds expectations for their size. Pain tolerance abnormally high. Capacity for violence matched by capacity for compassion. Warning to Council regarding standard classification methods ineffective for this species. Keep reading, Thek said. They do not fit our classification model, Kevin continued. They are not the strongest, fastest, or most advanced, but they are dangerous in ways we have not categorized. Recommend creating new evaluation criteria before formal classification. End quote. The room fell silent. Lisa broke it first. When was this report filed? 32 years ago, Thex answered. The Council has been debating how to classify humans ever since. The recent first contact forced them to make a preliminary decision. But the debate continues. What are the options? Jake asked. Some Council members want to classify you as Level 7 and monitor closely. Others argue for Level 8 or even 9 based on potential rather than current capability. A few suggest Level 10, Apex, Amy said. But we do not have a dominant trait. No. Thex agreed. You have something different. You have adaptability itself as your trait. Every apex species excels in one domain. But you excel at becoming whatever you need to become. That is unprecedented. Kevin stood and walked to the window. The Council station gleamed in the distance. So what happens now? The Council will continue evaluation. They will test you. Not with formal tests, but by observing how you interact with other species, how you handle challenges, how you respond to crisis. Thex moved toward the door. I came here because I believe you should know the truth. Some Council members see you as a threat. Others see potential. And a few, like myself, see hope. Hope for what? Lisa asked. Hope that a species which learns from its mistakes might teach the rest of us to do the same. The Council is old. We are set in our ways. Perhaps that is why we fear you. You represent change. Thex left as quietly as he had arrived. The team stood in silence, processing what they had learned. Well, Amy finally said, at least we know why they are nervous. Kevin turned back to his data. I am going to analyze every first contact scenario in Council history. I want to know if any species was ever classified above Level 10. Why? Jake asked. Because Thex said our adaptability is unprecedented. If the Council created the Apex classification for the best in each category, what do they do when they encounter something that does not fit any category? Lisa sat down slowly. They create a new one. Or they try to fit us into the old system and hope we do not break it, Amy added. Jake looked at each of them. Thex gave us this information for a reason. He wants us to be prepared. Prepared for what? Kevin asked. For whatever test is coming. The Council will not just observe us. They will put us in situations to see how we respond. We need to be ready. Lisa pulled up the Council charter on her screen. She scrolled through hundreds of pages of regulations and protocols. Here, she said, pointing. Article 47. In cases where species classification is uncertain, the Council may request demonstration of capabilities during crisis situations. They are going to manufacture a crisis, Amy said. Or wait for a real one, Jake replied. Either way, humanity's next move is being watched. Kevin returned to his analysis. Then we better make sure we understand what they are really measuring. Because I do not think it is just about power or technology. What is it about? Lisa asked. I think they want to know if we will use our adaptability to help or to conquer. They have seen species rise to power before. Some became protectors. Others became threats. They need to know which one we will be. Amy pulled up tactical data. Then we need to show them, but carefully. If we look too weak, they will not respect us. If we look too strong, they will fear us. We need to look human, Jake said simply. Whatever that means to them. The night stretched on. The team worked through exhaustion, analyzing data, preparing reports, and trying to understand a galaxy that saw them as both a mystery and a potential threat. In the quiet hours before dawn, Kevin made one more discovery. He found a single line in an ancient council document, written by one of the founding species. Beware the species that does not fit your understanding. They are the ones who will either save you or replace you. He did not share it with the others. Not yet. But the words stayed with him as the station's lights began to brighten with artificial morning. Somewhere in the council chambers, decisions were being made about humanity's future. And somewhere in the dark, between stars, the universe prepared to test whether humans were ready for what came next. The alarm cut through the council chamber like a knife. Red lights flashed along the walls as Counselor Velthar's voice boomed across the room. Emergency broadcast on all channels. Colony Outpost 17 is under attack. Captain Ben Walker was in the observation gallery with the rest of the human delegation. He stood immediately, his military training kicking in. What is the situation? A massive hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a small planet with 3 moons. Hostile red markers swarmed around a cluster of buildings on the surface. The Ravagers, Velthar said grimly. A fleet of 18 ships. They have overwhelmed the colony defenses and are conducting ground operations. How many colonists? Ambassador Greg Patterson asked. He was the senior human diplomat, a man who had negotiated peace treaties on Earth for 30 years. 4,000 individuals from 12 different species, including 200 Kryn warriors and their families. Ben felt his stomach tighten. If Kryn warriors could not hold the colony, it was bad. Very bad. What is the council response? Greg asked. The nearest battle fleet is 9 hours away, Velthar replied. We are dispatching them immediately. But the colony will not last that long. Ben pulled out his communicator. This is Captain Walker to the horizon. Status report. His first officer's voice came back instantly. Sir, we are 3 hours from Outpost 17. We picked up the distress signal 5 minutes ago. The council chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to Ben. Counselor Sarketh, a large reptilian being who had argued against humanity's inclusion in the council, spoke up. The Horizon is a diplomatic vessel. It has minimal weapons and no combat training for this type of engagement. Captain Walker, you will wait for proper military support. 3 hours, Ben said quietly. We can be there in 3 hours. To do what? Sarketh demanded. Your ship carries a crew of 43. The Ravagers have 18 warships and over 1,000 ground troops. You would be throwing away human lives for nothing. Ben looked at the hologram. Children were in that colony. Families. People who had done nothing wrong, except be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Counselor Sarketh. With respect, I did not ask for permission. I informed you of our position. Horizon. Set course for Outpost 17. Maximum speed. Captain, that is an order, Sarketh said. You will stand down. Greg stepped forward. Counselor, Captain Walker commands a human vessel. The Council does not have authority to order our ships without formal alliance agreements. And those agreements are not yet signed. Velthar raised a hand. Please. This is not the time for jurisdiction debates. Captain Walker, I understand your desire to help, but Counselor Sarketh is correct. Your ship is not equipped for this. Then we will make do with what we have, Ben replied. He started walking toward the exit. Excuse me, counselors. I have a colony to reach. Lisa caught up with him in the corridor. Ben. They might be right. This could be suicide. It could be. Ben agreed. But I have spent 20 years in the military. I know what happens when you abandon people. Because the odds look bad. I will not do it. The Council is watching, Lisa warned. Everything you do reflects on all of humanity. Ben stopped and turned to face her. Good. Then let them see what humans do when innocent people need help. Let them see that we do not run when things get hard. He reached his ship an hour later. The Horizon was small compared to Council military vessels, but it was fast and well maintained. His crew was already preparing for the mission. Officer Amy Rodriguez met him at the airlock. She had transferred to the Horizon 2 weeks ago. "Sir, I pulled up everything we have on the Ravagers. They are a mercenary group. They hit colonies, steal resources, and sell survivors as slaves. Tactics? Overwhelming force. They do not use strategy. They just swarm with superior numbers." "Good," Ben said. "That means they can be outthought." The bridge was a controlled chaos of activity. Lieutenant Ryan Clark was coordinating with the colony survivors over long-range communication. Ryan was young, only 26, but he was calm under pressure. "Sir, I have contact with the colony defense coordinator, a Kryn warrior named Thok. He says they are holding the central compound, but Ravager forces are closing in. Tell him we are 3 hours out," Ben ordered. "And tell him to prepare for unconventional support." "Unconventional how, sir?" "I am still figuring that out." Ben gathered his senior staff in the ready room. 8 people. Half the size of a normal military command crew. But they were good at their jobs. "We cannot win a straight fight," Ben began. "We have 2 plasma cannons and basic shields. They have 18 warships. So we are not going to fight fair." Amy pulled up tactical data. "The Ravagers use old Kelvan warcruisers. They are powerful but slow. Their shields are strong in front, weaker on the sides." "What about their ground forces?" asked Lieutenant Karen Foster, the ship's engineer. "Disorganized," Amy replied. "They rely on fear and numbers, not coordination." Ben studied the hologram of the colony. It was built into the side of a mountain with 3 main buildings connected by underground tunnels. "Ryan, can we access the colony's environmental systems? From orbit? Possibly." "Why?" "Because if we can control the environment, we can control the battlefield." Ben pointed to the mountain. "The colony has geothermal generators. That means they can manipulate heat distribution." "Karen, could we use that?" Karen's eyes lit up. "You want to create temperature variations? Make it harder for their sensors?" "Exactly. The Ravagers will have thermal imaging to track colonists. If we flood the area with heat signatures, they will not know what is real and what is false." "It might work," Amy said slowly. "But we still have 18 ships to deal with." "We do not fight all 18 at once," Ben replied. "We pull them apart, make them chase us. Use the planet's gravity well and moons to create choke points." His crew looked at him like he was insane. Maybe he was. "Sir," Ryan said carefully, "that plan requires them to fall for every trick we use. If they realize what we are doing, they will just ignore us and finish off the colony. Then we make sure they cannot ignore us," Ben said. "Amy, how much do you know about Ravager psychology?" "They are prideful. They do not like being challenged." "Good. Then we challenge them loudly and publicly. We broadcast our attack on open channels. We make them angry enough to want to destroy us personally." 3 hours later, the Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Outpost 17 system. The Ravager fleet was in orbit, raining fire down on the colony. Smoke rose from the buildings below. "Open a channel," Ben ordered. "All frequencies." Ryan nodded. "Channel open, sir." Ben took a breath. "Ravager fleet. This is Captain Ben Walker of the human vessel Horizon. You are attacking a protected colony. Leave now or face the consequences." Silence for a moment. Then laughter came over the speakers. A rough voice spoke in broken galactic common. "One small ship threatens us? This is amusing. Leave, human. Or we add your ship to our collection." "I will give you one more chance," Ben said calmly. "Leave or be destroyed." More laughter. "Destroy us? With what weapons?" "With these." The Horizon fired both plasma cannons at the nearest Ravager ship. The shots hit the side shields, causing minimal damage, but they got attention. "All ships, ignore the colony. Kill that human," the Ravager commander ordered. "Got them," Amy said with satisfaction. 4 ships breaking orbit to pursue. "Karen, take us into the upper atmosphere. Make them follow." The Horizon dove toward the planet. 4 Ravager cruisers followed. their larger ships struggling with the atmospheric entry. Ben pushed the ship hard, skimming the edge of space and air. "Ryan, can you access the colony systems?" "Working on it. The Ravagers have been jamming communications, but I found a workaround." "I am in." "Good. Activate the geothermal vents. All of them. Flood the valley with heat." On the surface, massive vents opened. Superheated air blasted across the battlefield. The temperature spiked by 30 degrees in seconds. Ravager thermal sensors went haywire, showing heat signatures everywhere. "They are confused," Amy reported. "Ground forces are firing at false readings." "Now for the hard part," Ben said. He brought the horizon around one of the planet's moons, the 4 pursuing ships close behind. "Karen, kill our engines on my mark." "Sir, trust me. Kill engines in 3, 2, 1, mark." The horizon went dark, momentum carrying it forward. The Ravager ships flew past, unable to stop in time. Engines back online, fire on the rear ship. Both plasma cannons fired. With no side shields up, the shots tore through the Ravager cruiser's engine core. The ship exploded in a bright flash. 3 left, Ben said. "Ryan, status on the colony?" "Thok reports Ravager ground forces are in disarray. The heat is making them blind. But they still have superior numbers. Tell him to fall back to the tunnel systems. Make the Ravagers come inside where numbers matter less." The battle continued for 2 more hours. The Horizon led the remaining Ravager ships on a chase through the moon system, using asteroids and gravity assists to stay ahead. Ben's crew worked like a machine, each person knowing their role perfectly. On the ground, the Kryn warriors pulled the colonists into the defensive tunnels. Ryan had accessed the colony's systems completely now, closing blast doors behind the defenders and opening them in front of advancing Ravagers, leading them into dead ends and traps. One by one, the pursuing Ravager ships fell. The Horizon was hit twice, shields flickering but holding. Ryan took shrapnel from an exploding console, blood running down his arm, but he refused to leave his post. "Sir, the main Ravager fleet is recalling ground forces," Amy reported. "They are retreating." Ben allowed himself a small smile. "Pursuit?" "The Council battle fleet just arrived. 14 warships dropping out of FTL." "Good timing," Ben said. "Hail the colony." Thok's face appeared on screen. The Kryn warrior looked exhausted, but alive. "Human captain, you saved us." "How?" "By not fighting fair," Ben replied honestly. "Casualty report? 0 colonists killed, 17 injured. Your tactics confused the enemy enough for us to regroup. We owe you a debt." Ben shook his head. "No debt. Just help someone else when they need it." Back at the council station, the emergency session was still underway. Velthar watched the tactical readout in stunned silence. Around him, counselors from dozens of species stared at the same data. "They saved the colony," someone whispered. "With a diplomatic vessel," another added. Sarketh stood slowly. "This changes nothing. They got lucky." "Luck?" Velthar replied. "That was not luck. That was adaptation. That was strategy. That was sacrifice." He turned to face the chamber. "That was exactly what we feared." "What do you mean?" a counselor asked. The captain knew he was being watched. He knew this would affect humanity's classification. And he chose to risk his life and his ship anyway. Not for glory. Not for advantage, but because it was right. The chamber fell silent. "I call for an immediate vote on humanity's classification," Sarketh demanded. "They are dangerous. They do not follow rules. They need to be restricted before they disrupt galactic order." Velthar looked at the hologram showing the Horizon limping back to dock, its shields damaged but its crew alive. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "galactic order needs some disruption." The emergency council session began at dawn. Jake stood in the observation gallery with Lisa and Kevin, watching as hundreds of alien representatives filed into their seats. The air felt heavy with tension. "They are going to make a decision today," Lisa said quietly. "About us." about all of humanity. Below them, Velthar called the chamber to order. His voice carried the weight of someone who had not slept. We convene this emergency session to determine the final threat classification for species designation human. The floor is open for arguments. Councillor Sarketh was the first to stand. His scales gleamed under the chamber lights. The humans have demonstrated exactly why they are dangerous. They ignore orders. They take reckless risks. Captain Walker was told to stand down, and he refused. This is not the behavior of a species that respects authority. They saved 4,000 lives, someone called out from the upper seats. They got lucky, Sarketh countered. One diplomatic vessel against a Ravager fleet should have ended in disaster. The fact that it did not means they are either extremely fortunate or extremely unpredictable. Neither quality fits within our classification system safely. A Kryn representative stood. Thok, the warrior who had coordinated the colony defense. His 4 arms moved in gestures that translated as deep respect. I fought beside humans yesterday. Not physically beside them, but coordinated through their instructions. They did not save us with superior weapons. They saved us with superior thinking. They turned our environment into a weapon. They made our enemies blind when we needed to hide, and visible when we needed to strike. And that is precisely the problem, Sarketh replied. They improvise. They adapt. They refuse to follow established combat doctrine. How can we predict their behavior in future conflicts? Why would you want to? Thok asked simply. Predictable warriors die. Adaptable ones survive. The debate continued. Some counselors argued for level 8, citing humanity's technological growth rate. Others pushed for level 9, based on the colony rescue. A few wanted level 7 to remain, arguing that one successful operation proved nothing. Jake leaned toward Lisa. They are all missing the point. What do you mean? They are trying to classify us based on what we did. But that is not what makes them nervous. It is why we did it. Ambassador Greg Patterson stood and requested permission to speak. Velthar granted it, and Greg descended to the main floor. Honored counselors. Greg began. His voice steady and clear. I have been listening to this debate for 2 hours. You discuss our weapons, our technology, our tactics, but you are asking the wrong questions. Then what should we ask? Velthar said. Ask yourselves this. Why did Captain Walker disobey orders? Why did he risk his ship and crew? Why did Lieutenant Clark continue working with a wounded arm? Why did they fight so hard for people they had never met? Silence filled the chamber. Greg continued. We do not measure ourselves by what we can destroy. We measure ourselves by what we can protect. You want to know humanity's dominant trait? It is not strength or speed or intelligence. It is our refusal to abandon others, even when it costs us. Especially when it costs us. That is a weakness, Sarketh said. Sentiment clouds judgment. Does it? Greg asked. Tell me, counselor. How many species have you seen willing to sacrifice for strangers? How many would risk everything for people who cannot repay them? Sarketh did not answer. Humanity's history is filled with people who stood up when it was easier to stay down, Greg said. We have fought wars over the principle that everyone deserves freedom. We have sent ships into storms to rescue sailors we will never meet. We have given food to hungry children in lands we will never visit. This is not weakness. This is what makes us human. A small counselor from a level 4 species spoke up. But how can we classify this? There is no category for moral courage. Perhaps there should be, Greg replied. Velthar raised his hand. The council will take a brief recess. We need to consult the archives. Jake, Lisa, and Kevin followed Greg to a quiet corridor outside the chamber. That was quite a speech, Lisa said. It was the truth, Greg replied. I am tired of apologizing for humanity's compassion. We are not perfect, but we try to be better. That should count for something. 2 hours later, the council reconvened. The atmosphere had changed. Counselors whispered to each other, and Velthar looked troubled. The council has reviewed historical records, Velthar announced. The main hologram changed, showing an ancient text written in a language Jake did not recognize. The translation appeared beside it. This is from the founding charter of the Galactic Council, written 2,000 years ago by the species we call the Ancients. They were the first to unite the galaxy. They created the classification system we use today. Velthar read from the text. Species shall be evaluated by their capacity to affect galactic stability. Those who excel in a single domain shall be designated apex. But beware, the system is designed for species that follow patterns. It will fail when applied to species that defy categorization. What happened to the ancients? Kevin asked from the gallery. They transcended, Velthar replied. 500 years after creating the council, they evolved beyond physical conflict. They left the galaxy to explore other dimensions. Before they departed, they left a warning. The hologram changed again, showing a different passage. Velthar's voice became softer. Watch for species that do not fit your categories. They are the ones who will either save the galaxy or doom it. You cannot control them. You can only hope that when they make their choice, they choose wisely. The chamber erupted in discussion. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Sarketh stood again. This confirms my argument. Humans do not fit the system. They should be restricted until we understand them better. Restricted how? Lisa called out. You would punish an entire species for saving lives? I would contain a species that might threaten galactic stability. Sarketh replied. Better to be cautious than sorry. Caution and fear are not the same thing, Thok said. The Kryn warrior moved to the center of the floor. I have fought for 300 years. I have faced every apex species in combat. The Mindari can read thoughts. The Vexer cannot be harmed by conventional weapons. The Drax can survive in vacuum. Each one is terrifying in their own way. He turned to face the entire chamber. But I have never seen anything like what the humans did yesterday. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Their ship should have been destroyed in the first engagement. But they did not run. They did not surrender. They turned their weakness into strength. And when it was over, they asked for no reward. They wanted no recognition. They simply moved on to the next task. That is not a classification, someone said. That is a philosophy. Maybe that is exactly what we need to classify, Thok replied. Jake decided it was time. He stood and spoke without requesting permission. Counselors, I have a question. What is beyond Apex? The chamber fell completely silent. Every eye turned to him. I am sorry, Velthar said. Your system goes from level 1 to level 10. Apex is the highest classification. But what happens when you encounter a species that does not fit any level? What comes after Apex? Velthar exchanged glances with several senior counselors. Finally, he spoke. The system does not account for anything beyond Apex. It was never designed to. Why not? Jake pressed. Because the ancients believed that any species capable of transcending the Apex classification would no longer need to be classified. They would be beyond the system entirely. Beyond threats and categories, Lisa added, understanding dawning. Beyond the need for such measurements. Exactly, Velthar confirmed. The ancients reached that point. They became powerful enough that questions of threat level became meaningless. They chose to help rather than conquer. They chose to leave rather than dominate. Jake felt the weight of every eye on him. So the question is not what humans are now. The question is what we might become. Yes, Velthar said simply. And that is what makes this decision so difficult. We have seen your capacity for violence. We have seen your capacity for compassion. We have seen your ability to adapt and survive. But we do not know which path you will choose as you grow stronger. Officer Ryan Clark had been allowed into the observation gallery despite his injuries. He stood now, his arm in a medical wrap. May I say something? Velthar nodded. I am nobody important. Ryan began. Just a lieutenant on a diplomatic ship. But yesterday I learned something. When the console exploded next to me, my first thought was not about my injury. It was about finishing my job so the colonists would be safe. Captain Walker taught us that. Ambassador Patterson taught us that. Humanity teaches us that. He looked around the chamber. You want to know what path we will choose? We choose the path that protects others. We choose the path that stands up for those who cannot stand for themselves. We do not always succeed. We make mistakes, but we keep trying, and we never stop trying. The young lieutenant sat down, looking embarrassed by his own words. High Counselor Ithval, who had been silent throughout the session, finally stood. She was the supreme leader of the council, a position elected by all member species. Her word carried immense weight. I have led this council for 60 years, Ithval said. Her voice was ancient and kind. I have overseen the classification of 17 species. Each one fit neatly into our system. Each one could be predicted and understood. But I knew this day would come. She gestured to the ancient text. The ancients warned us. They told us that eventually we would encounter a species that defied our understanding, a species that could become either our greatest ally or our greatest threat. They told us that when that day came, we would have to make a choice not about them, but about ourselves. What choice? Velthar asked. Whether we would react with fear or with hope. Whether we would try to contain them or try to learn from them. Whether we would see them as a danger to avoid or a potential to embrace. Ithval looked directly at Jake, Lisa, Greg, and Kevin. Humans, you have shown us your best qualities. But be honest with us now. You have capacity for great violence. What stops you from becoming conquerors? Greg answered immediately. We remember what conquest costs. We have been on both sides of that equation. We know that empires built on force eventually crumble. The only thing that lasts is what you build together with others. Pretty words, Sarketh muttered. Actions prove words, Thok said. And their actions yesterday proved their words true. Ithval nodded slowly. The Council will now vote on humanity's classification. But I will make a recommendation first. I believe we should create a new designation. Not Level 11. Not beyond Apex. Something different entirely. What would you call it? Velthar asked. The High Counselor smiled. I will explain after we handle one more crisis. Because according to my sensors, we have another emergency incoming. Alarms blared through the chamber. Red lights flashed. A massive hologram appeared showing the edge of council space. A Ravager fleet, larger than anything they had seen before, was approaching, and they were heading directly toward the council homeworld. The hologram showed 43 Ravager warships approaching council space. Captain Ben Walker stared at the tactical display and did the math in his head. It was not good. That is 3 times the size of their largest recorded fleet, Amy Rodriguez said from beside him. She had come to the council chamber to provide military analysis. And they are heading straight for the homeworld. High Counselor Ithval's voice remained calm despite the crisis. All council defense forces are being mobilized. We have 28 warships in range. They will engage the enemy in 4 hours. You are outnumbered, Ben said bluntly. 28 against 43. Even with apex species on your side. Those are bad odds. Velthar turned to him. What would you suggest, Captain? I suggest you let us help. Counselor Sarketh laughed, a harsh sound. You? Your ship is damaged. Your crew is exhausted. What could you possibly contribute? Coordination, Ben replied. The Ravagers won last time. Because you fought them ship to ship. They overwhelmed you with numbers. But they are not organized. They are a mob with weapons. If we can coordinate your forces properly, we can turn your smaller fleet into a unified strike force. The Council military has commanded fleets for 2,000 years, Sarketh said. We do not need human advice. With respect, Counselor, when is the last time you fought a battle this size? Ben asked. When is the last time the Council faced an enemy that could threaten the homeworld itself? Silence answered him. That is what I thought, Ben said. You have kept peace for so long that you have forgotten how to fight wars. We have not. Earth has been at war for most of its history. We know how to coordinate desperate defenses. We know how to win when we should lose. High Counselor Ithval studied him carefully. And if we give you command coordination, what will you do? I will not command anyone, Ben clarified. Each species fights best in their own way. The Kryn are close combat specialists. The Mindari excel at long-range telepathic disruption. The Vexer have those incredible shields. I will just help you work together. Make you stronger than your individual parts. Jake stepped forward from the observation gallery. Counselors, you wanted to see what humanity would do when tested. Here is your test. We could evacuate. Take our people and run, but that is not who we are. Lisa joined him. We are offering to help defend a homeworld that is not ours. Fight for people who have not yet decided if they even want us in their council. We gain nothing from this except the satisfaction of doing what is right. Ambassador Greg Patterson nodded. You classify species by threat level, but maybe you should classify them by cooperation level. By willingness to stand together against danger. Ithval looked around the chamber. The humans have made their offer. I call for a vote. Should we accept their assistance in coordinating our defense? The vote was not unanimous. Sarketh and his supporters voted no. But the majority voted yes. Captain Walker, you have command coordination, Ithval said. Do not make us regret this decision. I will do my best, Ben replied. The next 3 hours were chaos. Ben set up a tactical command center on the horizon. Every council warship captain was connected to his network. Kevin and Ryan worked together to create a real-time battle map that showed all friendly and enemy positions. The key is not to fight them head-on, Ben explained to the assembled captains. We let them think they are winning. Draw them into an engagement zone where we control the battlefield. Where would that be? A Kryn battle commander asked. The asteroid field near the third moon, Ben replied. It is dense enough to break up their formation, but sparse enough for individual ships to maneuver. We use the asteroids as cover and as weapons. The Ravagers will not fall for such an obvious trap, a Vexer captain said. They will if we make them angry enough to stop thinking straight, Amy interjected. We did it at Outpost 17. We can do it again. Amy. Ben pulled up the Ravager fleet composition. Their command ship is in the center of the formation. It is bigger than the others and has more communications arrays. If we can disable it, the rest of the fleet will lose coordination. So we focus everything on one target? The Kryn commander asked. No. We make them focus everything on one target. Us. Lisa, watching from the command center, spoke up. Ben, you cannot use the horizon as bait. Your ship is already damaged. Which makes it perfect, Ben replied. They will see an easy kill. They will commit forces to destroy us. And while they are focused on one small ship, the rest of you hit them from the sides. This is insane, someone said. Probably. Ben agreed. But it is also our best chance. The Ravagers expect you to fight with honor. To meet them in open battle. So we do not do that. We fight like humans. We fight smart. The Ravager fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 43 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately began accelerating toward the Council homeworld. All ships, hold position, Ben ordered. Let them get close. Let them think we are afraid. The Council fleet waited, hidden in the shadow of the homeworld's largest moon. The horizon sat alone in open space, clearly visible to enemy sensors. They are taking the bait, Amy reported. 10 ships breaking formation to engage us. Good. Karen, how are our engines? Functional, but I would not want to push them hard, the engineer replied. We are about to push them very hard. Prepare to run. The horizon began moving, slowly at first, then faster. The 10 Ravager ships pursued, firing long-range weapons. Most shots missed. A few struck the shields. Lead them to the asteroids, Ben ordered. Nice and easy. Ryan was coordinating with the colonists who had been evacuated from Outpost 17. Thok and his Kryn warriors had volunteered to help despite their recent battle. Sir. Thok's forces are in position on the largest asteroids. They are ready to board any disabled Ravager ships. Tell them to stand by. The Horizon dove into the asteroid field. The pursuing Ravagers followed without hesitation. They were too focused on the kill to notice the trap. Now, Ben said quietly, 28 Council warships appeared from behind asteroids and moons. They opened fire on the Ravager pursuers from all directions. The Mindari used their telepathy to confuse enemy gunners. The Vexor ships positioned their shields to protect more vulnerable allies. The Kryn warriors launched from the asteroids in boarding pods, hitting disabled Ravager ships and taking them from the inside. The remaining Ravager fleet is moving to support, Amy reported. 33 ships incoming. Let them come, Ben said. We are not done surprising them. Kevin, activate the asteroid mines. Kevin had spent the last 2 hours planting improvised explosives on key asteroids. Nothing fancy, just basic chemical charges positioned to push large rocks into predictable paths. As the Ravager fleet entered the field, he triggered them. Asteroids tumbled into the Ravager formation. The enemy ships were forced to break apart, spreading out to avoid collisions. Their tight formation dissolved into scattered individual vessels. All ships, pick your targets, Ben ordered. Make every shot count. The battle became a chaotic dance of ships weaving through asteroids, firing and maneuvering. The Council forces worked together with a coordination they had never achieved before. Ben's tactical network showed each captain where they were needed most. The Horizon took several direct hits. Shields failed. Hull breaches appeared. But the crew kept fighting. Ryan continued coordinating despite his injuries. Karen performed emergency repairs while dodging explosions. Amy fed tactical data to Council ships while calculating firing solutions for their own limited weapons. Their command ship is moving toward the homeworld, Amy reported. They are trying to bypass us. Can we stop it? Ben asked. Not from here. We would need to intercept. And we do not have the speed. Lieutenant Ryan Clark looked up from his station. Blood dripped from a fresh cut on his forehead. Sir, if we angle the ship and fire both plasma cannons at the same time, we can use the recoil to boost our acceleration. That will tear the ship apart, Karen protested. It might, Ryan agreed. But it is our only chance to catch them. Ben did not hesitate. Do it. The Horizon fired both cannons straight backward. The ship lurched forward, metal groaning under the stress. They shot through the asteroid field like a bullet, racing to intercept the Ravager command ship. We are going to hit them, Amy said. I mean literally collide. We cannot stop in time. Then we do not stop, Ben replied. All crew, brace for impact. Karen, transfer all power to forward shields. The Horizon slammed into the Ravager command ship's side. The collision threw everyone against their restraints. Alarms screamed. The lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red. But the Ravager command ship was worse off. The impact had breached their main reactor. They were venting atmosphere and spinning out of control. This is Captain Ben Walker to all Council forces. The Ravager command is disabled. Finish off the remaining ships. Without their command ship, the Ravager fleet fell apart. Individual ships tried to flee. Some were destroyed. Others surrendered. Within an hour, the battle was over. Ben pulled himself from his command chair. His ship was a wreck, but they were alive. Damage report. Extensive, Karen said simply. We will need a full refit, but the hull is intact. We will fly again. Casualty report. Minor injuries across the crew. Ryan needs medical attention. But everyone is alive. Ben let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Good. That is good. Good. The Council chamber reconvened a day later. Ben stood with his senior officers, all of them bandaged and exhausted. The human delegation joined them. High Counselor Ithval addressed the assembly. In my 60 years of leadership, I have never seen anything like what happened yesterday. 28 ships defeated 43 through coordination and strategy, not because we were stronger individually, but because we fought as one. She looked at Ben. Captain Walker, you commanded forces from 12 different species. You turned our individual strengths into a unified defense. You did what our military commanders have tried to do for centuries. I just helped them talk to each other, Ben said. They did the actual fighting. Exactly, Ithval replied. And that is why the Council has made a decision regarding humanity's classification. The chamber fell silent. We will not classify humans as level 8, 9, or 10, Ithval continued. We will not place them within the standard system at all. Instead, we are creating a new designation. Velthar stood and read from a formal document. After extensive deliberation, the Galactic Council creates a new species classification, Catalyst. This designation is reserved for species that do not exceed others in any single measure but instead elevate all others through cooperation, adaptation, and unity. Jake felt his heart racing. Humans, Ithval said. You asked what lies beyond Apex. The answer is not greater strength or superior technology. The answer is transcending the need for such classifications entirely. Catalyst species are those who make everyone around them stronger, who choose cooperation over conquest, who protect rather than dominate. Lisa spoke up. High Counselor, what does this classification mean practically? It means humanity will be offered full council membership, Ithval replied. Not as a level 7 species waiting to be evaluated. Not as a potential threat to be monitored. But as equals who have proven their value through action rather than force. Counselor Sarketh stood slowly. Ben expected an objection. Instead, the reptilian being bowed his head. I was wrong about humans. I saw their unpredictability as a threat. I should have seen it as potential. The Council is stronger with them than without them. The vote for humanity's membership was unanimous. Later, Jake stood on the observation deck of the Council station. Lisa joined him, looking out at the stars. We did it, she said quietly. They did it. Jake corrected. Ben and his crew. Ryan and his injuries. All the people who chose to fight for others instead of running. Trender, the classification ceremony is tomorrow, Lisa said. Humanity officially becomes a catalyst species. The first one in galactic history. Olan, Jake smiled. You know what the funny thing is? We spent so much time worrying about how they would classify us. Turns out, the classification did not matter. What mattered was who we chose to be. And who we chose to help, Lisa added. Ambassador Greg Patterson joined them. I just received word from Earth. The news about our classification has been broadcast. People are celebrating. They should be proud, Jake said. But they should also remember what got us here. It was not our weapons or our technology. It was our willingness to stand with others. To protect those who needed protection. To refuse to abandon people just because the odds looked bad. That is what it means to be human, Greg agreed. On the bridge of the horizon, now docked for repairs, Captain Ben Walker sat alone. His ship was a mess. It would take weeks to fix. But they had saved the Council homeworld. They had proven what humans could do. Ryan Clark appeared in the doorway, his arm in a proper medical cast now. Sir, I have a question. Go ahead, Lieutenant. Why did you risk everything? We could have evacuated. Left the Council to fight its own battles. Why did you stay? Ben thought about it for a long moment. Because I am a human, Ryan. And humans do not run when people need help. We run toward the danger, not away from it. That is what makes us who we are. Ryan nodded. That is what I thought you would say. Why did you stay? Ben asked. You could have transferred to a safer assignment. You nearly died at Outpost 17. And then you stayed for another battle. Why? Same reason, sir. Because I am human. And humans stand together. Ben smiled. Get some rest, Lieutenant. We have a lot of rebuilding to do. Yes, sir. Alone again, Ben looked at the stars through the damaged viewport. Somewhere out there, Earth continued spinning. People lived their lives, unaware of the battles fought in their name. They did not know about the classification system or the catalyst designation. They did not know that their species had been judged and found worthy, but they would learn. And when they did, Ben hoped they would understand the responsibility that came with it. Being a catalyst meant more than just helping others. It meant showing the galaxy what was possible when species worked together. It meant proving that cooperation was stronger than conquest. It meant carrying the burden of hope. The next day, the classification ceremony took place in the Grand Council chamber. Jake, Lisa, Greg, Ben, and representatives from Earth stood before the assembled alien species. High Counselor Eithval spoke to the entire galaxy through broadcast systems. Today, we welcome humanity into the Galactic Council, not as a threat to be contained, not as a weapon to be controlled, but as a catalyst that will help us all become better than we are. She turned to the humans. You asked what lies beyond Apex. We have found the answer together. Beyond Apex lies unity. Beyond strength lies cooperation. Beyond individual power lies collective purpose. Welcome to the Council. Welcome to the galaxy. And thank you for teaching us that the only classification that truly matters is the one we create together. The chamber erupted in applause. Species that had never agreed on anything agreed on this. Humanity belonged among the stars. Jake looked at his fellow humans and felt a pride he could not put into words. They had not conquered the galaxy. They had not dominated through force. They had simply been themselves. And somehow, that had been enough. As the ceremony ended and the celebrations began, Velthar approached Jake privately. You know what the irony is? The council director said. We spent all this time trying to classify you, trying to understand where you fit, and in the end, you taught us that the classifications were limiting us, not protecting us. So what happens now? Jake asked. Now we revise the entire system. We add catalyst as a category for future species. We acknowledge that not everything can be measured by threat level alone. You have changed the galaxy, Jake Morrison. Not through weapons or technology, but through being willing to help others, through showing us what we could be if we worked together. Jake smiled. That is all we ever wanted. To be part of something bigger than ourselves. To help where we could. To protect those who needed protection. And that, Velthar said, is exactly what lies beyond Apex. Not greater power, but greater purpose. The stars outside the council station burned bright. In the darkness between them, humanity had found its place. Not as conquerors or victims, not as the strongest or the smartest, but as the species that brought others together. The species that chose cooperation over conquest. The catalyst species. And that, they all agreed, was the only classification that ever really mattered.